And to discuss the women's issues to date in either the workplace or in society or even in business, we're joined in studio by chairperson of the Nozala Trust, Ntombi Mhlongo, the 1976 veteran and former death row inmate Paulina Buyeye Mohale, an NGO director, Natalie Skierpers, and we're joined by Akitumetse Tlaole, project manager of SIOC CDT on the phone line. A very good evening to you all, and thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much.
May I just start with you, Paulina, since you were, part of those 1976 women and you actually came back from death row. Talk to us about some of the issues that women were facing back in that day.
The women were facing challenges as that the women were supposed to be resorted in the kitchen. So as you know from the 50s, few women marched to Union Building for eradicating the past laws. The women united strongly those days, and they were having they were respectful, having a strong family bond relationship. And they were less educated. The women used to be confided to their men counterparts. They didn't have rights then, but they were united as I speak. The 1960s, 70s, women refused to be submissive to their husband, and they were less educated. They seek their place in the boardroom. 1976, women marched during the uprising, and most of women were on the front line. Like myself, I was in detention. I was about to be hanged in Pretoria Maximum Prison, but instead the judge died on our behalf, and hence we survived.
On a lighter note, the judge died on your behalf. Silver lining around that cloud, definitely. I mean, we're glad that you still are alive to tell the story of what happened in that day and actually to encourage the younger women who are around in today's society. Ntombi, just talk to us as well about what the challenges are that women face currently. Did what they fought for in 1976 come to fruition? Are we still fighting the same battles that they fought?
Okay, let me say I was halfway in between the 76 and the current. Well, according to my age, the current is foreign to me, what I see happening now. But what is discouraging me, what we were challenging or talking about or debating as early as those days of the 70s, the 80s, if you attend any meeting, it's the same story. So we have not moved. The society has not moved, because women have been fighting for recognition, for their rights, for having a voice, but the issues are still the same. They've just taken a different character from then.
And I think that even from my introduction, some of the stories I went through earlier on, we're seeing women facing so much more brutality, so much more violence in today's age, even in society and in business as well. Just talk to us about some of the challenges that you face as part of the newer generation.
I just want to say thank you to my colleague here that, if you didn't do what you did back then, we wouldn't have had all the opportunities we're having today. We cannot discount that. But I think you're talking about the issues that's happening and how women have to face challenges. It's all the same. We have to prove ourselves in business. We have to prove ourselves in the kitchen, as you've said. But business is so much more difficult. Even if you have the papers, like I've got a PhD in engineering management, you still have to prove yourself beyond what you have. You walk in a boardroom, a man will look at you and think that you should be making the tea or the coffee.
What are you doing sitting at the same table as us?
Why are you at the table? And you could argue with them and, you know, talk a lot of sense. You still haven't earned that place. And I think government is not helping with all the processes and paperwork and documentation. It's an endless nightmare. Even with an education, you still have to register here, do this, and it's keeping a lot of people out of the workplace. Never mind the boardroom. We're struggling to get into JSE-listed companies because there's no space for us. There's no place because you know how it works, that it's per nomination. Who's going to nominate you if you're coming from, you know, where I come from? So we're not having it easy. Not at all, because you have to have the education, you've got to have the right clothes, the right color, the right car, who knows, the right cell phone, you know.
So a lot more pressure on women to actually make it in the industry, whereas a guy can just have matric and still be able to get much more than you with your degrees and your PhDs.
Itself. Yeah, it speaks for itself. You see that being published every week. And what more must we do? What more must we say? And we're looking at what's happening at Rhodes. It's still, the surge is still carrying on, and we're expecting our male counterparts to protect us. We're not saying we want the whole cake. Invite us and we'll show you what we could do, you know. I think women are better judging on a lot of things. They can judge and they have better sense of people as well. So we should be welcomed, not be this adversary all the time.
Yeah. Well, joining us on the phone line is Kitumetse Tlaule, who's a project manager. A very good evening to you, Kitumetse. Thank you for joining us. I mean, what has it been like for you to actually make it in that project management space as a female?
I think my background started in technical part of project management, and I'm currently in the social change and social impact point of view in project management. But the difficult point, I hear Omama, the ones that come from the struggle itself, and the middle, I'm glad that, I forgot her name, said she is in between, and then there's us at the bottom, or at the current. And what I actually pick up is that in the beginning, Omama were fighting against the struggle against apartheid, you know, against the white men. And in the middle, then you're fighting to enter the corporate world, to enter the opportunities that everybody has access to. But with us, it's actually a bit of a minefield because you get into the industry, especially with technical, because I was in geotechnical engineering. You get there and you are fighting still apartheid, funny enough. You're still fighting the analogy that you're black, so you cannot have a brain. And if you do have a brain, apparently it's small. That's the first thing. Then the second thing, you are fighting also the patriarchy in the setup, because the black men that are there are so thankful that they are in the industry. They are so thankful that they are awarded an opportunity to be engineers. They are awarded opportunities to be breadwinners and drive German machines, that they would trample on anything to get to the finish line. And that anything includes you as the woman. So now you are sitting in a position where you're fighting white monopoly capital and you're fighting practically in its entirety. Then you're fighting traditional roles, because somebody mentioned how you are in a room and they're asking you about tea. After a while, people get used to the fact that there are women in the technical world, there are women in corporate world. But our black men still will know that you are the CEO or you're the chief engineer or you're the chief geologist, but they will still expect you to make the coffee, because in our traditional setup as black people, the woman is still the woman. So, you know, with quoted marks, the woman is still the woman, irrespective of what position they hold inside that group. So they will acknowledge that you are their CEO, but they'll still look at you and think, but why are you not pouring me water?
Well, it seems like you must be superwoman, right? Whether you're at work
exactly. You know?
or even in education.
So whether you're at work or at home, so it's now as if when you are in the boardroom, you're fighting so many systems at the same time. And just now when I was holding on the line, you were doing the story of Ukensani.
Yes.
And her story is literally what we fight with today, where in a black patriarchal structure, you cannot abuse your spouse. So you're living with a spouse who doesn't think it's possible for them to abuse you. It's not possible for them to rape you. It's not possible for them to oppress you. So you're living with them with that ideology. So they are oppressing you. You wake up in the morning, you go to work, and then there's a white man who further oppresses you because he doesn't think black people think, or black people have a brain.
Well, Kitumetse, let's also just bring in another voice here in the form of Zinat Gur, who is the owner of the South African Institution of Civil Engineering. Zinat, a very good evening to you, and thank you for joining us. Now, civil engineering is predominantly a white and male sector, and you seem to be making it in the sector. How have you been able to do it?
Thank you for the call, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today. The industry is typically very white male dominated, but I think the reality of the situation is that you need a foot in the door, you need to be able to show your competency, and when you do that, then you are respected. Mm-hmm. I think that we have to try harder as women, but it also makes us better engineers.
Well, just please do stay with us on the phone line as we come back to studio. Mr. Ntombi, how can society sort of be taught to change its view on the woman and her role in society?
First, I have to touch on what Mama Mohale said earlier, which is different now. The women at that time, they were united. That is why they achieved what they achieved, which is less of the happening at the present moment. Mm-hmm. I want to challenge the women and say, as it is now, even us as women, let alone now asking the men to join us, even us as women, we're finding it difficult to unite, which is what made them. Unity made it to happen. Discipline, commitment, unity. But right now, much as the government is giving women the opportunity to be in those areas that were male-dominated. What tends to happen, not all the women, there are always exceptions. Once that woman has been granted that opportunity, we tend to be assimilated by the system that exists. Mm-hmm. Yet, as women, if we get that opportunity, we must target to change the environment. We get assimilated, and now we fight for survival. For you to survive, you must do as they do. If you can't beat them, join them, kind of a situation.
So we should actually be trying to change the situation and not just join it and go with the flow. Mampole, I mean, this is the centenary of Mama Albertina Sisulu, and I mean, this is someone that you possibly knew personally. You know, how can we as, 21st century women actually take some of the things that, the values that she stood for and carry them in sort of becoming more united as women in the country?
Yeah, I just want to touch what she has just said just now. You know, even if we are women, then they will prefer to vote for a man and uplift a man.
That's true.
Rather than we ourselves. Because if we are a woman, we must understand. I think we should get a mentorship to say that, you know what, to educate a woman or to empower a woman is to empower a nation.
That's true.
Because no child will be an orphan, no child will be a street kid. Women are a praying, they've got the praying, they are prayerful, they are powerful in prayer and in intersectors. They will pray, we should pray for the government, we should pray for the nation, for our children, and for our neighboring countries. Because hence we see this innovation of other countries coming to South Africa. Why? Because South Africa is well resourced. South Africa, it can provide. But how are we doing it? Who is sitting there in those chairs in the department?
In the boardrooms, making those big decisions.
To make decisions.
Yeah. Natalie, just in 1 minute, how can we become more united as women?
I do have opportunities at times where I uplift or be part of emancipating some women. And what she said is correct, that we still want to be in the sandpit playing games and taking the other person down. So it is a problem. I think we as women are not very specific about what we want to achieve and how we want to do it. So if you've achieved and you've arrived at the position, I'm just thinking back when I did my studies, it was like, where are you going with this? You're becoming too academic. Instead of women rallying around me and saying that you've done well, how do you bring other people in the fold? And when you do want to bring them in the fold, it's like, but you've had opportunities, you've had support, but I'm trying to support you, I'm trying to show you the way. But
allow me to mentor you.
But I think what we need to do, we need to be very resolute about how we need to approach things. I think there's place for mentorship, but as individuals, you must be focused, you must understand what you want, you must know what your goals are. You can't be running after every tender, if I want to put it like that. You must know what you want in life. You must be structured with your thinking as well.
And have a plan.
Yeah, and have a plan.
Now, Zinat, just in 1 minute, do you also have opportunities for mentorship in the civil engineering faculty for young females?
And what we do is we try to encourage female students that are doing back work or female students that have just graduated to join our company, to join an apprenticeship program where they get exposed to the industry, they get exposed to design, they get exposed to the real world of engineering. And currently there is a change, there has been a change in the shift in the amount of women entering the engineering faculty. I think conventionally there's been a lot more female architects than now female engineers. But also I think that, you know, it's not only a case about gender inequality that we feel. I think it goes back, I mean, traditionally, you know, if you go to toy shops, the toys for boys are building blocks and cars and, you know, very butch guns and that sort of thing. And you walk down the toy aisle for girls and it's all make-believe home industries, you know, little dolls and washing machines and ironing boards. So, you know, there's a lot of change that needs to happen, and I think that and the change is happening. Maybe not at the pace that we would like it to happen, but I think, you know, us identifying and understanding that there is gender discrimination within our industry makes, you know, room for talk and brings to the forefront that there is gender discrimination, and then it can actually be addressed.
Well, Kitumetse, just in 1 minute, your closing comments on how we can move forward together as women.
I would say with every marginalized group, the only time they were able to achieve anything, it was when they were united. So the women of 19 managed that by uniting. And an example would be also last week's total shutdown march. When women unite and we have one vision and we say this is our message, we all believe in it and we will fight for it, we achieve something, we get heard, we get seen. So I think unity is really what we should all strive for. I was at the F&B breakfast, business breakfast event this morning, and Umama Pilisiwe of the NEF was one of the speakers, and she said, you should actually be ashamed of yourself as a woman who holds power in a corporate or in an organization or in a business, who sits and watches a room still full of men, and you are there in a position that can change it. Like your ability to be in that position is for you to open the doors for the many, many women that are ready and standing there. Because the truth is, women are ready. We have heeded the call to go to school, to prepare ourselves mentally, to prepare ourselves emotionally, to prepare ourselves in any other way required to survive what business needs, what corporate needs, and what any other industry needs. We just need the doors open. And there are few women who are also sitting across the boardroom who just need to open the doors for all of us. And that takes uniting. Because if you're going to open a door for a stranger, it's because you unite with them in one dream, in one hope.
Thank you very much, Kitumetse, and for all the women that actually joined us in studio and on the phone line. Women, I guess you have heard the call. Be that agent of the change that you want to see and mentor other people and allow them into that space that you're already thriving in. The conversation does continue online, so follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @AfroWorldView. My colleague Harold Papalam was up next, but from myself and the Primetime crew, Salang Letsohofetz.